Hey guys, it's me and I'm back and I have a pretty big conversation to have. It's kind of interesting. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. Um, I, okay, for a very long time, very long, I have been dealing with my health being kind of weird and having problems such as chronic pain and irritable bowel type things and all sorts of things. But it all started in 2009, I want to say. Yes, 2009. 2009, I got these little bumps on my shin. I got like a little bump. It was about, well, it wasn't little. It's about 3/4 of an inch round, plus it had like a bruise look, probably an inch all the way around it. It was very red and gnarly and painful. And that happened right between, on my shin, right between my ankle and my knee. It was right in the middle. And then, like, 2 days after that one started, I got another one, like, an inch above it, like, right in a line. And that continued to happen until eventually I had them all over my legs and all over my arms. And of course, I'm filming a video, so there is a cat screaming at me from the kitchen. See her? Ruby! Ruby, get down. Get down. Ruby? They don't listen. They don't listen. Anyway, so that happened. I'm gonna go really quickly through all of this, just real quick. I went through that, and I went to the doctor, and well, a nurse practitioner, and she was like, "Oh, I am fairly certain that this is a staph infection," and she lanced one of them to take like a sample of whatever was in it, send it off to the lab, and then she gave me this cream and was like, you need to put this on every single one of them and keep them covered so they don't keep spreading and so that your kids don't get them, and so on and so forth. So that is what I did. Now, what you guys may or may not know is that I got a terrible staph infection after my C-section in 2002. I was incredibly, incredibly ill. It traveled around my body. I was on serious antibiotics for like the first 4 months of my daughter's life. It was incredibly painful and horrifying and scary. So when this woman said, you have a staph infection and you have to keep them covered and you don't want to spread them, like, first of all, like, absolutely not. I do not want my kids to get it, like, especially not from me. So I totally did everything I could to cover them up. And that included, by the time I winded up going to the hospital, I had about 75, I believe the number was like 78. But it was 2009, so it's a long time ago. I know I had over 75 band-aids all over my body, like literally neck, arms, trunk, legs, all over. And I went to the hospital because one day I woke up and I had been feeling awful and just feeling really a lot of pain. That was the beginning of the pain. I had never experienced chronic pain until this happened, but feeling a whole lot of pain in all of my joints, in just incredible agony. And I woke up one day and literally could not walk. I went to get up and my legs were just like frozen and stiff and in so much pain I could not walk. So then I called my mom, and my mom was like, if you have a staph infection that is multiplying that rapidly because they just start to pop up everywhere, and you have pain in your joints, you have got to go to the emergency room. So then I called the nurse hotline to ask them their opinion. I feel like I have a hair on my lip. Girl, stop yelling at me. I called the nurse hotline to ask them their opinion, and their opinion was also that I should go to the emergency room, and I did. Went to the emergency room. I was there. I walked in covered in these bumps, and I was like, I've been diagnosed with a staph infection. But now, when I say I walked in, I mean like hunched over, barely able to move, and were pretty much kind of scooted me in. But I got there, and I was diagnosed with a staph infection, but now it hurts all over. And so the nurse hotline told me to come to the emergency room, and they were like, whoa, staph infection, get her out of the waiting room, set me in this little side room. Ran a bunch of tests, came back, and the guy's face was like so freaked out because he was like, you don't have a staph infection, like you don't have any infection. And I was like, well, what is this? And he was like, I don't know. So we're gonna admit you and figure it out. So I spent the week in the hospital and basically went home with the diagnosis of erythema nodosum, which is fancy for hot red bumps, which they are. They are hot to touch, they are very red, and then they are bumps. A normal case of erythema nodosum presents majority only on the shins. If you get a crazy outbreak, you might get them all over your legs. If you're really, really wild with it, you might get them on this part of your arms. So it usually basically like travels up your shin, just like it would go up your arms, and that is considered wild. Nobody that I talked to, or any of the doctors, or anybody that I saw, had ever heard of somebody having them literally all over their body, but I did. So they were like, okay, this doctor, lots of stuff happened. I'm going quickly, but lots of stuff happened, and this doctor comes in and he's like, okay, the treatment for this, sometimes you never find out why. Like sometimes they can be triggered by underlying illnesses. The major one is Crohn's, but often they are completely just a body's reaction. It's like your immune system just reacting to something, and it's kind of overreacting. You press the reset button by basically a course of steroids, and everything's good. So he was like, I'm gonna send you home on steroids. I had pain medicine because the erythema can hurt, like when you get it on your shin, if you get it close to your knee, the joint closest to the erythema can suffer pain and stiffness and swelling and just general like bad things. So it wasn't crazy that I was in pain all over because I had them all over. So there you go. Every joint in your body is hurting because you have these things all over you hurting your joints. So he gave me pain medicine, and he gave me a course of steroids, and I went home and I took the steroids and I got better and I felt good. And I think I had like a 15-day course of steroids. By day 7, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Hallelujah. By day 17, so 2 days off the steroids, the first erythema came back. And from there, they just continued to pop up all over, and I had them for about a year. This led to, I had them for, about a year. So this led to all sorts of doctor's appointments and going into literally all sorts of doctor's appointments where I got CTs and MRIs and everything else. And one of the things they found was fatty liver. So I went to the doctor, the GI doctor, to talk about that, to get my results for that ultrasound. And that guy was an older guy. I would say he was probably in his late 60s, early 70s. He was not very kind. And at the time, I weighed about 250 pounds. And he was basically obsessed with like how fat I was. He was very ugly. He blamed everything on my weight. He was like, back in the day, I could have just wired your jaw shut, but that's not considered ethical anymore. But I wish I could, because you totally need to just have your jaw wired shut. On and on and on and on. I left there feeling horrible and scared that my fatness was killing me, which I'm not saying that obesity doesn't equal health problems, but not all health problems are because of obesity, and that's not necessarily the way you go about getting through to somebody. So anyway, I was just horrified and scared and upset and convinced that I had done this to myself and my family and everything else, and I went home. I went to many other doctors, and I wound up getting diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, non-degenerative rheumatoid arthritis, I want to say. That's what they said back then. Then I got diagnosed with Crohn's. However, the best hypothesis, I was going to say guess, but I guess it's a hypothesis because it's a scientific theory. I love being able to hang up on bullshit calls with my Fitbit. That's awesome. So you're just like, boop, don't even have to find my phone. Anyway, so the best like theory was that I have Crohn's and that the only active symptom that I was displaying was the erythema nodosum. And I was told at that point it can get worse. You might wind up having the actual digestive issues that go along with it and the like bowel issues that go along with it, or you might not. And what I've learned since then is that Crohn's actually generally follows one of like three paths, like lower digestive, upper digestive, or a combination of lower and upper type of thing. But digestive, I mean bowels, lower bowels, upper bowels, small intestine, large intestine. Bam, that's it. So small intestine, large intestine, or a mixture of both. But actually, Crohn's can affect other things. It can mimic arthritis in the shoulders. It can bother your eyes. There are a lot of rare sides of Crohn's, and erythema nodosum is part of that. It's not a usual thing, but it does happen. And for people where you're not presenting normally, it can be a strange thing to try to get doctors to like recognize what's going on. If you don't fit, it's kind of weird. And then along with that, those diagnoses, I also got fibromyalgia as a diagnosis. Now that really bothered me because I couldn't, I was very confused because the pain that I was feeling doesn't necessarily mimic, sorry guys, doesn't necessarily mimic like fibro as like it's not typical. It's not always mirrored on both sides. It is trigger points, but it's not, I don't know. And I was kind of like, but I don't understand, like you're saying I have fibro that's causing the pain. However, I have all of these erythema bumps. Like I have a physical thing happening that has nothing to do anywhere in any study, has nothing to do with fibromyalgia. And the doctor was basically like, well, I think what happened was the long-term stress of the erythema, the continuous erythema, triggered your first flare-up of fibro, and that could come and go the rest of your life. Who knows? Okay, so at that point, I was extremely ill. I started to get very bad migraines, so my migraines come and before I get a headache, I get like this weird thing would happen where like my vision would go tunnel or almost black out completely. I felt like I was passing out, like my heart would beat rapidly, my vision would go tunnel, and I would kind of like fall over kind of thing. I know it's really weird, but that's what would happen. And then I would kind of feel like wake up and have a bit of a headache that would continue to grow into a serious migraine that could knock me out for days. So at that point, I was not working regularly because I was having to take time off and everything else. And we made the decision just to go ahead and homeschool. By the time that had happened, I had lost over 100 pounds, like 100, I think it was 120 pounds, basically, 119.8 or something. So I lost all the weight and I was very upset because it was like, okay, that one doctor had really put it in my mind that it was me making myself ill. I couldn't figure it out. And then it was like, oh, it's fibro and, losing weight's going to make it better. And I was still very ill. Like all of it was kind of like confusing, but I lost my insurance at that point because at that point, my marriage was not legitimate in Louisiana, so I could not have the insurance through my wife, so I lost my insurance. That caused me to stop going to doctors and just to kind of deal with it, or to go to like clinics where I could just get in and get seen quickly but not get all kinds of testing done. And that turned into the next 5 years of just kind of being bounced around, having extreme pain, lots of pain in my side, like in my right side, and being told, well, that's just fibro. Like, yeah, rib pain is part of fibro. Lots of IBS symptoms. Well, that's just, yeah, IBS is normal when you have fibro. They kind of often go hand in hand. Okay, great. Like on and on and on. these terrible, terrible attacks of like gut-wrenching pain that would leave me laying on my side for hours and then kind of clear up, or I'd fall asleep and wake up feeling better. And they figured that that was allergy attacks, like I had eaten stuff that I didn't realize I was allergic to, just all of this stuff kind of combined. But recently I decided, since I now have good insurance, we have moved, we are settled in. I was like, okay, last year I went through a lot, like at the end of 2016 into 2017 was a rough year. And physically, I tend to manifest my stress and my emotions in my body. So I was really not feeling good. And I was like, you know what? Instead of just going to doctors, I'm going to go back to specialists at the original. Like there's the clinic that, like the hospital and clinic situation that I was going to on the South Shore. They have a North Shore campus, and I was like, they'll have all of my records, they'll have everything. I'll go back there and it will be a better situation because I'll be able to actually build like a team. So I did go back to build a team, and I did it with like the mindset of only using female doctors whenever possible, because I read this article that said that female physicians take female patients more seriously. They listen to them. They tend to actually take into what they're like account what they're saying instead of dismissing them, which often you can be dismissed as being like a weaker person, or of course you're tired, or you know, maybe you're being a little bit over dramatic or whatever. When you see a male doctor, that's not across the board. I'm just saying, the article that I read basically said that on average, female patients live a better, more fulfilled life, and they live like 5 to 8 years longer if they have female physicians. So I was like, well, I'll just see females. That makes me more comfortable anyway. So there we go. So I picked out a nurse practitioner and a rheumatologist, sorry, and started like just building my team. And I have to say I got incredibly lucky and blessed because my rheumatologist is amazing. She is like my favorite. She is very patient and she's very interested in all of the information that is just random and just like, okay, I'm just gonna tell you about all the like weirdness that's going on so that you can hear me and figure out if any of that pertains to what we're trying to fix, kind of thing. So did that. And then she recommended, what is that? Who is this? And then she recommended hold on. I'm just gonna do this. She recommended I had a nurse practitioner, I had my rheumatologist. She recommended a female you have to have a physician, like you can't just have a nurse practitioner, you have to have like your, what is it called? It's like your main doctor. So she recommended her. That woman is great and awesome. She directed me to a fantastic GI doctor who is male, but is so cool and so fun and so calm and very, very understanding. And he listens and he's amazing. And then I went to him. And I had an ultrasound done. I had all my blood work done and my liver enzymes were slightly elevated. And so she was like, well, let's get an ultrasound done. So we got an ultrasound done and I went to follow up with that and they found gallstones. But what my GI doctor told me this time, after looking at my records from last time, is that I've had the gallstones the whole time. And one of them is really big. So he was kind of like, have you ever had pain or discomfort? And I was like, well, yeah, I have like pain and discomfort over here, but they said that that was fibro. So, dun dun dun, here it is. I am now going to have my gallbladder out. And I'm completely like, I don't even know how to process it. I'm scared because it's scary, but I know that it's a pretty common procedure, and I know that the leaving the gallbladder with giant stones as it is could cause issues that result in having to have it taken out anyway, but also could complicate things and make things really bad. The surgeon that I went to talk to was weird. He was very mechanical, but he was nice, I guess. And he was kind of like, I don't understand. I don't understand why this is still in you, because you had these giant stones 10 years ago, and IBS is a diagnosis of exclusion. So they should have taken this out and seen if it got better. And I was like, wait, is that even a possibility? And he was like, well, yeah, it's a possibility. The pain in your side could get better. Like all of that could rectify itself by taking out this gallbladder. And I was like, the fuck you say? Like, what? This is insane. The idea that like that doctor that I went to who was obsessed with wiring my jaw shut did not even bring up the gallstones. He didn't even like say anything about it. Is crazy. So I'm legit excited about the possibility of eliminating like I don't know, I fear to say this because it's crazy, but like 75 to 80% of day-to-day discomfort that I live through is right up in here, right there, and like up in the upper right side of my stomach. So the idea that that could clear up is amazing, like amazing. The idea that like the IBS symptoms or the like, I always called it my nervous stomach, could like maybe get better is crazy. I'm really excited, and Amber feels very positive. Amber's like, this is gonna change your world. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be so good. But I can't help but be a little bit scared because they have to put you to sleep. It just kind of freaks me out. And just because with anything you can have complications. And so when I went to talk to this guy, that was the one thing he stressed was like complications. Like, oh, you know, you could do this, this, and this. And I was like, oh my God, that's so scary. But he really didn't go into, that was the surgeon. He really didn't go into like the positive sides of it. He kind of was like, I don't know why this wasn't done already. It kind of has to be done. When are you doing it? I could do it Wednesday. I could do it Thursday. And I was like, whoa, buddy. I need to find out how much it's going to cost. I have to figure out how I'm going to pay for it. And then I have to find this time because we start homeschool next week and I'd like the kids to at least be settled in. I have a feeling I was going to try to put it off, but I think I'm going to wind up doing it at the end of August, which is kind of a fun situation because it will be done. It will just be done. I know it's not going to be fun. I didn't mean like that. It just meant like the idea of it being done and being able to go into the school year and feeling better is kind of amazing. So that's where I'm at. I am a little scared. If you have any horror stories, don't tell me them. If you have great reports, like, oh, I've done that. It was easy. It was okay. It was a little bit painful, but it's fine. Great. You can tell me all about it. If you've been put to sleep with general anesthesia and you've been woken up successfully, which obviously, if you're watching this, you did wake up successfully, put that down there because I'm kind of freaked out, but I'm also kind of excited. And I'm trying not to put too much into it, like, oh my gosh, it's all gonna be so much better. It's gonna, but I am kind of excited. I think it's gonna be a lot better. And the idea of it is almost impossible to imagine. So, I don't know. That's where we're at. Real quick, I don't know, you could probably tell that my spirits are up a bit, and it's not just because of the surgery. I mean, obviously, that's not really it at all. I think that I talked to you guys about dyeing my hair and about like getting back to me, and like I finally have makeup on. I don't think I've done makeup in I would venture to say over a year. Yeah, I think I did it one time when I tried to like make myself look like a human to go to therapy at the beginning of 2017. So I haven't worn actual makeup in 1,000 years. I have my hair dyed. I'm gonna do my nails. It's just starting to come together. The kitchen's kind of neat. It's gonna be neater. I'm gonna rearrange this entire area because we have school starting. And then I also have a pretty, like if this was a big health update, I have a pretty big weight update. And I'm actually waiting until tomorrow to do that because I want to weigh in officially and then have a conversation. And I'm pretty excited. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And I look forward to updating you with the classroom, the changes, some vlogs, and a surgery update that hopefully will have amazing results at the end. Worst case scenario, I just don't have a ticking time bomb. It's sitting in my right side. Best case scenario, it clears up a lot of the issues I've been dealing with for almost a decade. And that would be amazing.